What if the limiting beliefs that you have are just your brain's way to keep you from experiencing discomfort? Oof, that's a big one. It's something I've been thinking about a lot and talking to my mentorship clients, and I wanted to record an episode about it because I think for me and for the people I've worked on this with, this leads to a really meaningful breakthrough around these limiting beliefs that we all have. So let's talk about it. And this is another in a series of Tea with Nataly episodes. Here's my tea. If you're watching this on video, I'm holding a giant mug of my Bengali spice favorite afternoon tea, especially for the cold months. And I always encourage you, grab a cup of tea or coffee or your favorite beverage and receive, right? Maybe pause all the doing, all the multitasking and emails as you listen to this episode and just receive and be open and give yourself this chance to just be and listen. I think it's rare in our lives to just pause and receive, right? We're always doing, doing, doing. So we all have limiting beliefs and limiting stories we believe are about ourselves and limiting in our narratives. There's some very common ones, and I find in myself and my work with people of all like backgrounds and leaders and executives and entrepreneurs and just all kinds of humans, there's kind of a common thread, right? So I am not good enough, right? I am not worthy enough. I am not X enough is a really, really common limiting belief. And so there's a lot of strategies, and it's kind of a big focus of my work that I do to help people like break through them. And I think I'm really good at doing that because it's still something I have to do. You know, this concept of a wounded healer is the best healer. I find it to be really true. The things where I feel I am best at helping others are things I'm still working on in myself. And so this is something that's personal for me too. And so I want you to think about, what is a limiting belief that you have that prevents you from doing more, that prevents you from feeling good about yourself, that prevents you from growing, expanding, taking chances? Just like reflect on that for a moment. And I want to explore this idea that these limiting beliefs that we have are, in a way, our brain's way of giving us an out of experiencing discomfort. I'm going to use myself as an example, and this is like really vulnerable for me to share, but if I don't, then how could I ask you to ever do this with me? One of the limiting beliefs that I have been working through for the last couple of years when I realized I had it is that my work, I have this fear, I have this limiting belief that my work is not original enough, right? That, well, people already know all these things that I write and talk and speak about. Like, I'm not original enough. And so it's a really limiting belief because it makes me feel like crap. If I give into it, makes me share less of my work. Like, it actually prevents me from sharing my ideas because I'm like, oh, not original enough. Everybody already knows this. And so I was thinking the other day, two things. First of all, and I have this framework that I use with my mentorship clients that I'll share with you. But a part of it is, if you want to break through a limiting belief, the first thing you have to do is recognize what are the assumptions that it is based on. And then one of the powerful ways to break through is to look for the evidence of the opposite in your life. And so, like, what are the assumptions that this belief is based on, that my work is not original enough? Um, I don't know, actually. It's not based on any facts. Like, God has never come down and given me a certificate of you are not original enough, right? Like, no one's ever come up to me after one of my keynotes or workshops and said, Nataly, I find you unoriginal. In fact, when I look for the evidence of the opposite, a lot of people tell me like my work really stuck with them, or how I talked about things really stuck with them and was really helpful for them. And so that's a helpful way to kind of loosen the limiting belief. But I want you to consider something I've been considering is, if I believe that my work is not original enough, what discomfort do I get to avoid? What is something that I get to then avoid? Well, the thing that I realized is I get to avoid giving it my all, right? So if I'm working on a book, which I'm probably starting a new one soon, right? I've written 3. But when I'm working on a book, if I believe like, oh, my work is not original enough, well, then I don't have to like give that book my all because, well, it's not going to be that successful. because my work's not original enough. So there you go. And I get to like lean back. I get to not experience the discomfort of like pushing myself to be at my best. I get to not experience the discomfort of reaching out to different people that I know to help like share the, get the word out about the book. It gives me an out, right? Then I can just like chalk up, oh, this book didn't do well, or, oh, this talk didn't land. Well, it's because I'm not original enough. And then I don't have to actually do the work to make that book great and really helpful. I don't have to actually do the work of making that talk really amazing. And when I realized this, it was really uncomfortable. I did not I wanted that thought to leave my head, like you have this realization and it's true. And there goes my computer. I forgot to turn off my notifications. Let's just stay real with this. Apologies for that. I hope it didn't disturb your tea and listening time. When you have this realization and it's true and it's going to change something, but it's highly uncomfortable. That's how I felt when I had this realization about this limiting belief, but it was really powerful. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, because I want you to think about how might you be using your limiting beliefs to give yourself an out from doing things that are really important to you, meaningful to you, new to you. How might you be using your limiting beliefs to give yourself an out from really growing, from experiencing, yes, some discomfort that requires? Because I think thinking about that, as uncomfortable as I promise it will be, and if you never listen to another episode because I made you so uncomfortable, well, I hope you don't do that. But, I tell my mentorship clients, if I don't make you uncomfortable, fire me and I'll give you back all the money you paid. Because my kind of methodology, and I think the best thing that I can offer is what I call loving agitation. Just ask my husband. I've been lovingly agitating him for the past 27 years, but loving agitation, right? So I share all of this with true love and empathy and compassion and like a genuine desire that this benefits you, but I have to agitate you a little bit. We have to experience some friction in order to change, right? I agitate myself. I lovingly agitate myself all the time. I used to not lovingly agitate myself. And then after I burnt out, I learned to do it in a loving way. So I want you to think about this. And it might be uncomfortable, but I think you might have some breakthroughs around. And I think it might open some space around this limiting belief where you get a choice, right? Because the thing about limiting beliefs, they're only limiting if you let it to be, right? I'm not going to tell you that by doing this kind of inner work around it, that I've completely gotten rid of this idea that my work is not, original enough, but it doesn't have a hold on me. It's not useful to me, right? I've replaced it with a different belief. And that's something that I encourage you to do. Once you kind of get honest with yourself about your limiting beliefs and how might you be using them in ways to prevent yourself from growing and expanding and taking chances and doing things that are really meaningful to you, it's not enough to kind of say like, well, this isn't useful to me. You want to replace it with something that is fueling and something that is constructive. And the shift that I invite you to make is to think about, instead of judging your work or judging yourself, right? That's what our limiting beliefs are. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. My work's not original enough. Those are judgments. So instead of focusing on the me lens, right? Like me, how do I judge me? Think outwardly. So the belief that I choose to focus on is, I know that my work benefits other people, and I want to continue to get better at sharing it and better at my work and better at my craft so that I can help more people. And that is a more fueling, constructive belief that I know my work benefits a lot of people, and I want to continue to get better at it so I can help more people. Well, that belief is really motivating. Like, you can hear it in my voice. I just sat up when I said it, right? I'm going to take a sip of tea. And apologies for my nasally voice. I've had this cold that I caught in London that I can't seem to kick. I try not to swallow next to the microphone. I have to remind myself because this mic picks up everything. So think about that. So that's your homework. Okay. How about, I love homework. Do you love homework? I love homework because in our world of so much chaos and uncertainty, don't you love having something really concrete to focus on? Maybe it's the geek in me. So here's your homework. Jot down some of your limiting beliefs, the ones that come up over and over again. And again, think of that like, I am not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not X enough, right? And then ask yourself this really hard, uncomfortable, beautiful question. How might I be using this limiting belief to give myself an out from doing things that are challenging, but that I want, from really honoring myself and what's valuable to me? And then I want you to take some chisels to the foundation of that belief. Like, what assumptions is that belief based on anyway? And are those really true? And then the final part is, what is an inner narrative, an inner story that you could replace that limiting, useless, deflating belief with? And my suggestion to you for creating that narrative is really focus on your purpose. So instead of having the lens of self-judgment, think about how doing whatever the thing you want to do that you're kind of stopping yourself from doing, how could it benefit others? How could something that you share, create, contribute, how could it benefit others? And create a narrative around that. Because that's when we get into what's called a pro-social mindset. That is when we focus on how we can contribute towards others. And there's a lot of research that shows that that actually helps us to bust through fear, to feel less anxious, to be more confident. And when you have that inner narrative, you're going to have to practice it. This isn't like one and done. But every time that limiting belief comes up, I want you to ask yourself this question: what is this giving me an out of? And do I really want that? And if not, what is a more fueling, constructive inner narrative that I want to adopt instead? I hope this resonates with you. As always, thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching or listening. Shoot me an email, Nataly, Nataly, at happier.com. Let me know how this resonates, what this brought up for you, what other topics you'd love for me to talk about. I do this podcast because it is in service of you. So I want to hear from you. I love hearing from you. If something you heard resonates, maybe there's a person in your life you want to share this episode with, please rate and review this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. It helps other awesome humans discover it. And with that, I will see you and be in your ear for our next episode. Take good care.